Hello, everyone. Thank you all for being here today. My name is Henrik Bick. I'm with the communications team here at the Music Business Association. Happy to welcome you to today's Common Ground webinar series session. Before I get started, just first off, thanks everyone who was interested in the session, and thank you for your patience and understanding in the transition from one platform to another. We're glad to be back with you on Zoom, and hope that those folks who had some issues with previous webinar experiences, things move a little more smoothly today. Before I introduce today's presenter, just have a couple of very brief housekeeping notes. We are, if you can believe it or not, just about 5 weeks away from the start of Music Biz 2024, May 13th through the 16th at the JW Marriott in Nashville. If in case you haven't been on your email, we just a few minutes ago sent out our first collection of speakers. It's more than 200 folks, not the full program, but most of the folks who you'll see and learn from at Music Biz 2024. Be sure to visit musicbiz2024.com or musicbiz.org. Those are your best places to register for the conference if you haven't yet. Learn more about Overflow Hotels. Our room block at the JW Marriott is sold out at this point. However, there are overflows where we're filling rooms so folks can easily get to and from the conference every day, as well as register for some of our satellite events within the conference. Women in Music will be hosting some leadership roundtables that require individual sign up, as well as some music startup programming done in conjunction with UMG. So be sure to visit musicbiz2024.com or musicbiz.org. As I said, you can also see the latest editions of our Keeping Tempo blog and the Future of What podcast on musicbiz.org as well. While you're there, you can also find out about our next upcoming virtual events, including the next event in our Music Biz Passport series. That'll be on Tuesday, April 23rd, and it'll be a discussion on the Latin American music industry. So be sure to check that out. Again, the website is musicbiz.org, and also be sure to follow us on socials at musicbizassoc on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn for announcements on the conference, member news items, association updates, and so much more. Reminder for today's webinar, before we get started here, if you'd like to connect with your fellow attendees, be sure to do so in the chat function and change your function to everyone. We'll also be doing Q&A at the end of the webinar. You can use the Q&A button on your dashboard to ask questions that we'll get to at the end of today's session. And let's get started with that session. We're really glad to have the team behind Dolby Atmos here today. And please welcome Ben Givers from Dolby Music's Partnership Team. Ben, take it away.
Thank you so much, Henrik, and thank you to the Music Biz Association. We are proud to be members and we believe in your mission. Just give me one moment here while I share my screen and bring up the presentation. Hopefully everybody is seeing that. Hello and welcome, and thank you so much to everyone for joining this session. As Henrik mentioned, I'm Ben Givers with the Music Partnerships Team at Dolby Laboratories. I'm based here in Los Angeles, and I'm thrilled to have my fantastic colleagues. These are my teammates from the Music Partnerships Team here to join me and share an overview of the Dolby Atmos music ecosystem and hopefully highlight some exciting updates and opportunities that you find helpful and inspirational as you harness Dolby's technologies for your own businesses. The Music Partnerships team is led by Christine Thomas, who is traveling today, but she sends her best. And if you haven't had a chance yet to check out the Future of What podcast with Portia and Christine from a couple of months ago, strongly recommend that you do that. It's a great session, and shout out to Portia, as always, for her support. Wanted to just briefly mention that the Music Partnerships team role, and we're going to get into this more in depth, is really about providing technical enablement and operational support to the creative community, the music industry, and our partners globally. So that's really in an effort to make sure that you have the tools and resources you need to harness our technologies and help you connect with parts and partners throughout the Dolby Atmos music ecosystem, and hopefully to help facilitate relationships or realize business opportunities and help to achieve your goals. So what that means is that we work really closely with tools manufacturers, studios, labels, services, and device partners every day. And I'm going to invite in a moment my amazing teammates to share a bit about their roles and how they help you to achieve your goals throughout the Dolby Atmos music ecosystem. So as Henrik mentioned, we welcome questions. Please add them into the questions function here in Zoom, and we'll answer back to you specifically or live in the session at the end. And thank you so much for joining. before the introductions, I just wanted to quickly set the stage for a moment at a high level for what Dolby Atmos music is. And I think that most people probably know some of that, but maybe not as much when it comes to the breadth of the global ecosystem. But just to start kind of technically from a creative perspective, just very quickly, of course, Atmos is our immersive audio technology, right? That allows the creator to place the listener in an immersive space. That could be a mix engineer, a mastering engineer, a producer, and an artist. And the creative decisions that they can make are to precisely place elements of that composition around the listeners. So those choices could be to have height, they could be to have size, movement, and or to create separation between elements of the track. That could reveal enhanced clarity, detail, and nuance within the music or voice or instrumentation. And those creative decisions that are made in the mix are preserved in the Atmos master file, and that will translate and scale to the playback environment or the system with creative intent preserved. So in many ways, it's about that translation technology in Dolby Atmos that ensures your creative vision is delivered with integrity. So again, I think most people are familiar with some of that. But a lot of the work that our team does is to educate that Dolby Atmos music is actually part of an expansive end-to-end global ecosystem that, of course, starts with the creator, but is distributed globally on 20 plus enabled streaming music services to over 2.5 billion devices. This slide here is not an exhaustive list of all of the partnerships, but just helps to give you an idea of Dolby Atmos's role throughout the ecosystem and some of the partners that we work with. So those 2.5 billion devices out in the marketplace include TVs, mobile devices, AVRs, soundbars, cinemas, gaming systems, both Xbox and PlayStation 5, automobiles, of which there are 12 announced in production or on the road today, live venues. Yes, you can experience Dolby Atmos in live venues as well. And we're going to talk about some of those experiences here in a minute. But I wanted to emphasize here that there's a growing consumer focus on auto and smart speakers. So it's really about reaching the listener in more affordable, in many cases, ways and more accessible ways. So we're aiming to meet consumers where they are, whether at home and on the go. And hopefully this presentation helps to illustrate some of those opportunities throughout that ecosystem. So from a business perspective, and Aaron's going to touch on this, Atmos can potentially open new revenue opportunities as well, just from the master being its own master and an additional SKU delivered for recorded or reimagined tracks. So there's a ton of excitement. We're super excited to be here. And with that, I'd like to invite the team to come on to introduce themselves, starting with Jason, please.
Thanks, Ben. Hi, everybody. Thanks for having us. Really excited to be here. My name is Jason Banks. My role on the team, I'm responsible for technical strategy, business development, and ecosystem health. It's a pretty fancy way to say I spend a lot of my time trying to understand how the music industry is using technology to create, and if there's opportunities for us to apply Dolby's technologies to the tools that they use every day. I'm also the interface between our music DSP and distribution partners to help them better understand how to distribute Dolby Atmos music as well as the playback environment. And I build the bridge between our internal engineering teams and all of you folks out in the market. Pass it over to Greg.
Thanks, Jason. Hi, everybody. It's great to be here. Again, I want to thank Music Biz for having us. Again, we're also super proud to be members. And again, great to be here. So yeah, my name's Greg Chin. I'm actually based in Miami, Florida. I've been here at Dolby now for about 8 months or approaching 8 months. I'm the director for creative enablement for our music partnerships team, along with all my beautiful and amazing colleagues here. And my role is kind of bridges a little bit, really engaging with the community, the creative community who are creating in Dolby Atmos, specifically around music. There's a bit of technical, touch to that as well, and just really making sure that every one of our creators have the tools and feel totally enabled to be able to, create all the wonderful music and content that's being made available in Dolby Atmos. Let's see. I think I will turn it over to my colleague Emma Brooks.
Thanks, Greg. Hi, everyone. My name is Emma Brooks. I am an engineer, and I also lead our music studio enablement program in North America, as well as managing our global music studio onboarding process. So my day-to-day looks like supporting creatives, whether that be engineers, producers, studio owners, as they enable their space for Dolby Atmos content creation, and then also working on our global training programs to ensure that we are kind of aligned on best practices as we expand across regions and third-party partners. So with that, I will hand it over to Erin.
Hi there, I'm Erin Venables, Senior Industry Relations Manager on the Music Partnerships team. I'm across what you'd kind of call content pipelines. So I work really closely with studios, mix engineers, producers, label partners, streaming service partners, auto OEMs, consumer electronics OEMs. I help connect a lot of dots. I help get people to where they need to go in their Dolby Atmos journey, and help identify opportunities. And I also have my counterpart here with me, Tyrone Davis.
Thanks, Aaron. How you doing, everyone? My name is Tyrone Davis Jr. My role at Dolby is to help lead relationships with record labels, the content creation pipeline, and activation supporting activities with a focus on hip hop and R&B. I'm also one of the voices of the creative community within Dolby, driving the development and adoption of new creative tools and services to support the music industry. And pass it off to my colleague, Ben.
Right on. Thanks. Thanks, everybody. With that, I'd like to ask Greg to share a little bit about the tool set. We're not going to spend a lot of time on the creative tools. It is, of course, a very important part of the ecosystem and where it all starts. But Greg, if you could just share a little bit about the tools, the services and tool sets that are enabled for creating Dolby Atmos music, I will hand it over to you.
Sure. Thanks, Ben. So as you can see here on the slide, we've got some amazing partners that we work with. So Dolby Atmos is obviously embedded in terms of a tool set, which I'll show a slide for that in a second, around our Dolby Atmos renderer and now our Dolby Atmos album assembler. However, the tools themselves really are in the hands of folks who are leveraging DAWs. So if you take a look at this slide, this kind of gives a current breakdown of what it looks like in terms of being able to use or create with Dolby Atmos from a DAW perspective. So on the first line, you'll see that we've got DAWs that have actual rendering integrated into the DAWs. So Pro Tools just came on board last December. Before that, just a couple of months before that, Persona Studio One came on board. You can see we've got Steinberg Nuendo and Cubase, Blackmagic Resolve, and Apple Logic Pro. So with native rendering availability, that basically means that the DAW is able to pretty much end-to-end start and deliver a rendering via using Dolby Atmos as the format. So you're delivering an ADM. Also, we even for DAWs that don't actually have rendering integrated, that doesn't exclude them from the party. So you're able to actually have native object panning support or leveraging the panner plugin all alongside the Dolby Atmos renderer. So the next two lines kind of gives an overview of what that kind of looks like. Now, one of the things I'll just quickly mention here is that working with these DAW partners, that gives us really great access to users outside of how we normally kind of engage with our creative and user base. So it gives us some really great feedback from working with these partners and looking at what that means for the roadmap for all of our creative users, how they're able to leverage the tools, what they're looking for. So a lot of that feedback comes from working with these partners as well. So it's not a one and done. So if we take an example, Pro Tools was probably the first DAW to have any kind of connection. It wasn't a full integration, but when it was first launched, I believe in 2015 or so, there was panning support, things of that nature, all the way, fast forward now where they've got rendering integrated. We continue to work with the partners, and the partners also continue to work and iterate on what that integration looks like in the DAWs. And again, that helps us in how we kind of approach how we build the tools. So it's never a one and done approach. I mean, you've even seen that Pro Tools just a couple of weeks ago added live re-renders to their native integration. So this continues to change and improve over time. So the next slide, these are the main tools that Dolby has created to be able to create in Dolby Atmos. So we have the Dolby Atmos renderer. We're currently at version 5.2. And the Dolby Atmos album assembler, which is now at version 1.3. The album assembler was just launched a couple of years ago and was a great tool that was created really to help creators as they're putting albums together, multiple ADMs, to be able to kind of quickly, conveniently, and efficiently do that. And again, you can see that we're on version 1.3. We're working on new versions of both of these tools right now. Those will be available in the next few months, and a lot happening there. If you go to the next slide, again, just bring up the idea of what it means in terms of the tools, how we help our DAW partners with integration. Again, Pro Tools launched back in December. They are already released a new version just a couple of weeks ago, like I said, with the re-rendering. I'll also quickly mention that Persona Studio One yesterday just introduced a new version 6.6, where they actually include Apple Spatial as a monitor. Availability for users makes it a lot easier. And in addition to that, they also allow, from the rendering of the ADM, basically uploading that to TuneCore and being able to distribute that from a user's perspective, from a creator's perspective. So again, an end-to-end workflow that really makes it nice and efficient for the users. We love working with our partners, and there's still a lot more to come. So keep an eye out. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Ben.
Great, thanks, Greg. I'd like to invite Emma to come on to share a little bit about the studio footprint, which is a global network of studios that we work very closely with, and in many cases can connect the dots for you on. Emma works closely every day with a lot of these partners. So with that, Emma, if you'd like to come on and share a bit about the Dolby Atmos Music Studio and CSP program.
Absolutely. So I'm happy to share, as you can see here, that there are over 1,000 Dolby Atmos music studios in the world who have followed our guidelines and recommendations, and that is continuing to grow at a nice, healthy rate. So this is a global count, like Ben mentioned. It encompasses over 40 countries, which is really exciting, and includes only music studios. So there are many, many post-production facilities, theatrical rooms, feature studios, as well as smaller writing rooms that are not included in this number. So all 1,000 plus music studios can be found in our master list. This is a list that we keep but don't publish. However, we're happy to share it if anyone's looking for a studio in a certain region or in a certain city. It is shared regularly with our wonderful label partners, streaming services, and anyone who is looking for a Dolby Atmos studio in a specific area. Around 80% of those studios have opted into being listed on our public Dolby.com music studio directory, and many find this to be a really fantastic marketing tool and way to reach new customers and clients. And then to qualify for either list, studios would need to first submit our music studio onboarding form. So this can be found on professional.dolby.com. From there, our team can provide resources and guidance on the best practices for design and implementation, as well as connect engineers with a certified service partner. So the certified service partner program is for pro audio resellers and integration companies that participate in designing, specifying, and installing Dolby Atmos systems. It's a way for us to facilitate regular training sessions for room design and calibration, as well as to keep a really open line of communication and knowledge sharing with our wonderful partners who are really in the field frontline and doing amazing work to enable the market. So that program's been really key in maintaining quality as we expand across regions and as we scale the global studio ecosystem, which is very exciting.
Awesome, thanks. And Aaron's going to share some of the work we do with different studios around the world to help connect the dots and promote releases and some of the work that's going on there. So really great work, Emma. Thank you. I'd like to invite Jason on for a moment to just talk about the distribution network, which is firmly in place and delivering globally.
Thanks, Ben. So one of the most common questions we get from labels and creatives is, how do I distribute my music, or who can distribute my music for me? In addition to all the major labels, there are numerous services distributing Dolby Atmos music today. So Fuga, Audio Salad, TuneCore, DistroKid, just to name a few from the slide below. If you are a distributor and you don't see your name listed on this slide, please let us know. We love to add names to these slides. They go out pretty far and wide across the industry as we do these types of presentations. If you are a distributor that wants to start to deliver Dolby Atmos, the process is pretty straightforward. Dolby Atmos deliverables take the same path as stereo today. There is DDEX. DDEX is built into the ERN standard for Atmos today. So there is support inside DDEX for it. It's a simple pass through. The DSP does the final encode and delivery for the actual end consumer. And the best way to get started if you want to start delivering Dolby Atmos music is to reach out to your current contacts at the DSPs to understand their delivery requirements.
Great, thank you. And many of those distributors are distributing today across this global network of streaming services that I talked about earlier. So 20 plus streaming music services globally. Yes, of course, Amazon Music, Tidal, and Apple Music, the three that most people refer to here in the States anyway. Those are also available globally, but there are many others such as Angami, Hungama, Neighbors, Vibe in the Middle East and in India, QQ Music, which is owned by Tencent in China, and Melon in Korea, just to name a few. So there are global opportunities for distribution to these streaming services, and more become enabled all of the time. This continues to grow and has exponentially in the past couple of years. So it's really, really exciting. Wanted to touch a little bit on some of the partnerships beyond just streaming music content. There's, of course, this global ecosystem supporting delivery globally. It's not just for music, but also as part of film and television content as well. Many of you probably know that Atmos started as a cinematic experience, evolved into experiences that are delivered over OTT services. And today, in many cases, it's streaming music services that people associate with. But there are a lot of opportunities beyond just music for content owners. So this is not an exhaustive list of all partners within this ecosystem, once again, but it's sort of illustrating that some are creating and delivering for film and TV, many in Atmos and Dolby Vision as well. And in many cases, we can help connect the dots with these partners if there's activities happening and you have relationships throughout your day-to-day that could include Atmos or Dolby's technologies. We'd love to connect and hear about those. This illustrates some of those partners as well. There are over 80. Well, these are the content partners that are creating material in Atmos that may not be just streaming music specific. This is showing you some of the streaming services that are delivering that content. There are actually over 80 globally that are enabled for delivery of Dolby Atmos in whichever capacity it may be being delivered in. There are more exciting new ways to experience Dolby Atmos as well. Exciting new devices such as the Vision Pro, which is enabled for Atmos and for Vision, and smart speakers. It's a really exciting way to experience Dolby Atmos. Sonos is just one of our fantastic partners. We actually use these to demo in many cases. And Sonos, for an example, works really closely with the Atmos creative community on development and design, ensuring translation and fidelity. But what's exciting about this, the Era 300, is that it's a 6-driver smart speaker that's enabled for Atmos standalone. So you can stream from the Sonos app, for example, directly to this. Can also be paired and added to a soundbar, for example, or a multiple speaker system. They are a fantastic partner and just one example of how we show up at industry events and do demonstrations. They've been fantastic partners at things such as Billboard Latin Music events, some of our NAMM parties, Oscar events. So there are other smart speakers enabled today, JBL, Apple, Amazon, to name a few, but just an exciting way to get music into the hands of listeners at home or where they are. And one of the most exciting ways also to feel Dolby Atmos that you may not be familiar with or have experienced yet is Dolby Live, which is a 5,200 seat theater on the Strip in Las Vegas, fully integrated for live Dolby Atmos music experiences, fully engineered by Dolby to ensure an amazing experience, and it is. I believe Maroon 5 is just wrapping their residency now. Aerosmith and Usher have both been in residency there, but a really amazing way to experience Dolby Atmos and an opportunity for folks as well. You can check out our pro site for a little bit more information on that. Of course, we're asked all the time, yeah, well, where can I hear Dolby Atmos in automobiles, right? And if you've seen us out in the world, hopefully you've had a chance to experience this for yourself. Our Dolby Auto team is very active and supportive out at events globally. So CES, NAMM, South by Southwest, at music festivals, the Paris Auto Show, Amsterdam dance event. So hopefully you've had a chance to check this out, but there are 12 that are announced or on the road today or in production. And Dolby's seen as a valued partner in the automotive industry. I mean, we are really aiming to help shape the future of entertainment in cars. And the exciting part is it is here today and it's real. Lucid was the first to announce and be on the road with title implementation. Mercedes has S-Class, G-Class, the Maybach, and S-Class with Apple Music implementation, and Amazon as well. NIO, Li Audio, and XPeng are Chinese vehicle manufacturers that are on the road or announced in China. So this is global. It's here today. It's very exciting, and it's a way that people consume music regularly, and content creators want to deliver these experiences to their listeners through. So this is one of the most, I think, exciting ways to hear today. Here's an illustration of a few of those partners. With that, I will turn it over to Erin Venables for some industry relations.
Awesome. Thank you, Ben. So you've learned a little bit about the how to experience the where and the what. And I'm going to talk a little about like the who's doing it, the why, and how to leverage this broad ecosystem. All right, so now you can get on next slide. So kind of with the who, 92% of Billboard's top 100 artists released music in Dolby Atmos last year. So, you know, as Jason mentioned, this is all 3 major labels, tons of indie labels. There's tons of frontline music coming out every day in Dolby Atmos. Next slide. Coming off the Grammys this year, many nominations are also available in Dolby Atmos, including all of the Record of the Year, Song of the Year, and Album of the Year, you know, as well as Best New Artists. Those are all available in Dolby Atmos. So really the question is why? I mean, one important reason is just being able to offer this experience to the fans, this enhanced emotion, the depth, the clarity, and the promise of those decisions that were made in the studio and that creative process are going to translate across the ecosystem with a fidelity experience and deliver that creative intent. It's a bigger box of crayons on an expanded canvas, and artists and creatives are excited to share that experience with their fans. It's interesting now because as more and more creative exploration is being done and the tool set's evolving, so is the approach. People are starting to think about Atmos earlier on in the process, which is super exciting. You know, some are taking the approach of, you know, composing with Atmos in mind, producing with Atmos in mind, kind of starting in Atmos and then deriving their stereo mix from there, making changes to it as they would, sending to mastering as they would, but doing that as kind of with this wider asset first, rather than thinking about Atmos as a second pass or an afterthought. You know, and there's definitely advantages of planning that from the get-go. You're maintaining that creative control, creative content, and consistency throughout the process. It helps with targeting day and date releases as you're delivering both files. And why is that important? You know, another reason why is because the streaming services are also handling editorial of Dolby Atmos releases a little differently. You know, there's 20 plus services globally, as we talked about. We're most familiar with Apple Music, so spatial audio with Dolby Atmos on Apple Music, Amazon Music, and Tidal. They're curating really excellent playlists, spotlights on their landing pages of the services, just really getting a lot more eyes and ears to the releases. And it's not just new releases that are getting these spotlights. We have folks that are reimagining full catalogs in Dolby Atmos and creating big campaigns around them. There's been some great examples the last couple of years with J. Cole, Alicia Keys, the George Harrison catalog with Dark Horse Records, Rihanna, Usher. You know, this is a new mix, this is a separate mix, a new master. It is a chance to reimagine and reinvigorate catalogs that maybe people haven't been listening to in a while, and they try to find moments around to highlight these, to make an event out of it, to make a moment out of it, which is really exciting. So one way that labels are seeing this opportunity to make a moment is around album anniversaries. So there's been some really exciting ones. Dark Side of the Moon, Pink Floyd, that was a highly anticipated Dolby Atmos release, I'll tell you that. But they're not only releasing these on digital, but they're also taking advantage of the fact that physical releases are still in demand too, especially in the audiophile community, with physical box sets. Physical media is still proving to be important for those who are investing in those AVRs, those home theater systems, and so on that Ben had kind of touched on earlier in that broader ecosystem. So they're pairing that digital release with the box set that includes a Dolby Atmos Blu-ray. So with Dark Side of the Moon, they had the 50th anniversary, so they released the Dolby Atmos Blu-ray anniversary edition, as well as the streaming edition online. And then you can also, have content that's exclusive to these box sets. So a great example is the Prince Diamonds and Pearls Super Deluxe release that you see up here. This included the Dolby Atmos version of the Diamonds and Pearls studio album and a never before seen concert footage from Prince live at Glam Slam in 1992, which was also mixed in Atmos. Both the audio only versions are released on streaming, but the only way to get the never before seen concert in Dolby Atmos is on the Blu-ray disc. And it's not just catalog that is leveraging this. There's new releases as well. Oneohtrix Point Never released his last album, Magic, as well as his latest album, Again, on Blu-ray with Dolby Atmos. And so, Warp has been taking advantage of that as well. I'm also going to take a step back and dive into a little bit about the cinema ecosystem that Ben mentioned. Dolby Cinema, which is a kind of branded, curated experience that encompasses both of our flagship technologies, Dolby Atmos and Dolby Vision. There are about 450 of these globally. Our partner in North America is AMC, so it's probably what you're most familiar with. Next slide. When you cut that to just Dolby Atmos enabled screens, that number increases to 7,500 plus globally. Why am I telling you this? Because this is an opportunity that can be leveraged as well. Artists and labels are hosting things like one night only album launch parties across the globe, selling tickets. Fans are able to come experience the album in its entirety, sometimes with visuals, sometimes just in the dark, and they're loving it. Next slide. One great example is Metallica, a year ago, almost to the day, the 72 seasons global premiere. It was a one night only event where fans came to experience the album. Really cool. Really cool event. And then also concert footage. So Billie Eilish live at the O2 is a great example. So that was a one night only event in Dolby Atmos in Dolby Cinemas and cinemas around the world. And with the success of these concert films, like Taylor Swift Eras Tour, Beyonce Renaissance, which were both in Dolby Atmos as well. These can also pull through to those 80 OTT platforms that Ben mentioned, like Netflix, Apple TV Plus, Disney Plus, and many others. These partners are really interested in this content, and fans have shown that they will consume them. And then next slide. Another way, is incorporating more intimate Atmos experience into release activations, from pop-up activations and event spaces, intimate listening sessions in Atmos-enabled studios for, like, say, select contest winners or industry guests. And additionally, Dolby has a few owned spaces where we work with labels and artists to host intimate listening sessions. A couple of great examples. A couple of years ago, Phineas hosted a session with Amazon Music, where I think about 20 fans that won a contest got to come experience his new music in Dolby Atmos in an enabled studio in LA. It was a very intimate, really cool experience. You can see the photo here with the people gathered. That was at Jacob Collier's release event that he had in LA, where he had an activation where you could experience the art in his album, Logic sessions, his instrument that he made with native instruments. And then part of what he brought in was different partners like Genelec to build a Atmos experience for fans to be able to listen to the full album in Dolby Atmos in almost studio-like lounge. And also car partners, so Lucid brought in their car for fans to be able to experience the album in Dolby Atmos in the car as well. So, a lot of different touch points that were really exciting. And then a couple of these other photos are of our spaces that we have in LA, New York, and London, where we will host from time to time, partner up with our label partners to do listening sessions, release for press, industry fans, and they can be really exciting. And last is social amplification. We love to highlight new releases in Dolby Atmos. If you have releases coming out in Dolby Atmos, drop us a line. We love to create custom assets to highlight the availability of the release in Atmos. If your artists are posting about the release or they're in the studio working on a project in Atmos, let us know, tag us at Dolby Labs. You know, we love to amplify. We just want to know that what's coming out there so we can share it with the world. And that's it for me.
Wonderful. Thank you, Erin. Just wanted to quickly touch on podcasts, another exciting way for creators to be able to create content in Dolby Atmos and distribute it on platforms. In many cases, in many ways, it's the same tool set that you're using today or that you're using for music. The ones that Greg shared earlier are all great tool sets to be able to create this way. And if you think about consuming podcasts in various ways, be it on headphones and speakers or in an automobile, it just opens up a world of possibilities for how the translation promise of Dolby Atmos can really create a compelling story. So encourage you to check those out if you haven't yet. A few of the studios and a few of the episodic pieces that are available here. And I also just wanted to mention that we have a creators database that we would love for you to opt into. We're not selling anything there. This is really truly about connecting you with the latest information, connecting you with the latest pieces of progression within the Dolby Atmos music ecosystem, events that we're doing out there in the world. We're often showing up at different industry events, connecting partners, and would love to keep you informed on what's happening there. We also have a wealth of resources available for content creation as well, from quick start videos to deep dive videos to a completely free Atmos Music Essentials course that's been created by Dolby Institute. There are creator videos there. There are Hear From Creator videos. There are a ton of events that we're doing out in the world that we would love to keep you informed about and up to date on. We'd also love to hear from you on work that you're doing. We do a lot of work out in the world to amplify releases, like Erin says. Sometimes that's showing up at industry events to sit on a panel discussion and talk about the actual creative process, or do a deep dive video, or do something out there in the world, a cinema playback, bringing people together to talk about the creative process in that moment right there live. So if you're doing cool things, we definitely want to hear about it and would love to find a way to work together and amplify the work that you're doing. So with that, I think we will move on to Q&A. I'll just pause for a minute to stop my screen share and take a look here.
And as we transition to Q&A, just want to give another thank you to the entire music partnerships team at Dolby. We're really grateful to have you here today, grateful to have you in the member community, but especially today sharing your expertise and everything Dolby Atmos. It's really exciting to see. And folks, please, as we're getting towards the end here, if you have any questions for the team while we're still on today's call, feel free to drop them in the Q&A box and we'll answer them shortly. Reminder that this session will be recorded and posted to Music Biz's website by the end of today, in case you'd like to share with a colleague or revisit some of the insights that you saw at today's session.
Great. Thank you, Henrik, and thank you to the entire Music Biz community. Greg, I'm going to throw this one to you from Bern. How much more does recording in Dolby Atmos cost?
Yeah, thanks, Ben. It's a great question, Bern. So you can actually start with working with Dolby Atmos with what you have now. So if you've got a computer, a DAW, and a pair of headphones, you're basically ready to go. So working binaurally is a great way to start, which doesn't cost any more. Now, of course, if your DAW is not doesn't have any internal rendering available, then the cost there would be purchasing the Dolby Atmos renderer, which is $299 or $399. I forgot the price. But again, most DAWs have it kind of included, as I showed earlier, and we also provide 90-day trials for the tools, so for both the album assembler and the renderer. So 90 days, if you don't already have rendering included in your DAW, is a great way to start. Of course, we always recommend that as you kind of get more serious and you're getting into it, and you've got mixes that you're going to be delivering, we always recommend that you are able to check your mixes in a speaker-based environment. And for a speaker-based environment, the minimum recommendation there is a 7.1.4 recommendation. So that's 7 air-based speakers, your left, right, center, your side surrounds, rear surrounds. The .1 in this case is the sub, and then in this case the .4 would be your 4 overheads. Now that configuration can move up to a 916. So of course there's expense there if you're thinking about a speaker-based setup, along with your audio interface that you require a minimum of 12 channels. So it can really start from no cost at all if you've already got a DAW computer and a pair of headphones.
All right, thank you, Greg. One from Willie, and I'll just throw this out to the group. How might an Atmos experience be possible for catalog music if multi-track masters are not available?
So I can take that one a little bit. So, from a Dolby perspective, our job is to basically make the tools, which we've done, via the renderer, the assembler, and hand those to the creators to do what they need to do. As challenges come about, this is certainly one of them that we hear a lot about, that people have been talking about. It's important that conversations are had between the labels, the creators, the DSPs, and figure out a way, figure out what the tolerance level is. Of course, we're listening, and we're always keen to make sure that we're doing the right thing in terms of what is needed for the industry. But from a Dolby perspective, that is not something that we are specifically working towards. Again, that doesn't mean we're listening, and discussions are happening every day between all of the pertinent parties.
Okay, great, thanks. Mark asks, well, he mentions he missed the first half of the event. He's a musician. What tools are enabled for Dolby Atmos? And we can share back with him our pro site and the overview of the tool set. But Mark, chances are the tools that you're using are probably already enabled or compatible. So Pro Tools, Logic, Nuendo, Cubase, Studio One. You can use the Dolby Atmos renderer to connect the music panner to Ableton Live, for example. So we'll send you over those resources if you didn't have a chance to zap that QR code. It's professional.dolby.com. Okay, I'll throw this one out there to the team. Are there any specific headphones you recommend?
So Dolby Atmos experience, you can get a Dolby Atmos experience on any pair of headphones. So I would recommend that you are using your go-to favorite pair of headphones that you know well, and that's going to give you, your best experience. So, whether that's on the content creation side when you're mixing, or, when you're consuming, your favorite pair, I think, is your best pair.
Yep, great, thank you. Karen asks, from the editing mixing end, does finalizing a project with Dolby Atmos take significantly more time?
I think it all really depends on the project itself. So if you had been working, on a project with the client, or with another creative, and that started off as a stereo mix at some point, and now you're thinking about potentially mixing it in Dolby Atmos as well. Certainly, yeah, there's a little bit of transition that happens there. There's a lot happening with the tool set right now that we're so excited about, and you're going to be hearing a lot more about creating in Dolby Atmos. So I know I'm also a musician and artist myself, and my new album, I'm relatively new to Dolby Atmos myself, but I'm doing everything from scratch. So from inception, so from writing, recording, everything's being done in Atmos, and I'll be able to also derive my stereo mix from that. So there's certainly kind of, I won't say an inflection point, but certainly we're at a point now where the tools and what's happening there really makes it it's a lot more efficient, a lot easier. So I wouldn't say significantly a large amount of extra time, unless you're coming from being knee deep in a project that was already in stereo and then having a transition.
Great, thank you. And apologies if I missed this one, but did we address the Dorico question?
Darko. Yeah, I can take that one. So was that Karen? I forgot.
It was Julie Kim.
Julie, sorry, yeah, Julie Kim. It's a great question, Julie. So Dorico is a scoring software that's owned by Steinberg. I think that it's an interesting idea. Certainly, you know, being able to score and you know having your digital manuscript and being able to you know hear everything as you're scoring it in Dolby Atmos. So that is really a question that would go back to Steinberg. So I know that you know Steinberg has been thinking about and really kind of you know figuring out how they want to have Dorico and Cubase and Uendo have some level of integration. Of course, there's some bits and pieces of Steinberg's audio engine in Dorico. That's how it's run. So really, that's going to be up to you, Julie, and Dorico users. If that is something you'd like to see happen, we can help Steinberg enable that. You know, but you've got to take that to them. You know, so certainly would be possible.
Great. Well, that covers the questions that have been submitted. So thank you all so much for those fantastic answers. If anybody has anything else to add, now would be the time.
And as we approach the end here, just a reminder, folks, you can drop any questions in on the Q&A box. And again, thank you to the Dolby team for presenting today and also for taking time to walk through everybody's Q&A. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Henrik.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. Really glad to have you here and looking forward to welcoming you to our last webinar on April 18th with Verify Media, back on Zoom for that in about 2 weeks' time. Thank you again for being here today. Dolby, thank you all so much for being here and have a great rest of your afternoon.
Thanks. Cheers, everyone. Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.